Peace, peace. This is now Bill. I'm happy to see you guys today. Today's the 25th. Wisdom, power, born in God. And so we're dealing with the science of the original man. We're also dealing with the perfect number of. So I'm going to make this one brief. Being that I'm at the office and I have a lot of other things to do. First day of the semester, attempting to knock this master's degree out the way, right? So there's a lot on my plate. Um, Being that we're dealing with the science of God, I wanted to kind of get into um, aspect itself in which we deal with God, which is intimacy. So, as men, because I'm speaking to majority men, especially when I'm here in my office, as men, we have an issue often of dealing with intimacy. When I say intimacy, I'm not speaking of sex. Speaking of into me, I see, letting someone in, becoming vulnerable, right? So the science that I would like to deal with is how do you hear the aspect of God. Who is God? What is God? How do we deal with God? How do we become intimate with God? Well, they say that God is the original man, the Asiatic black man, maker, owner, cream of the planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe. So that's the wording. God is actually that aspect of your mind, which is the all I see. That God aspect of your mind that which connects to all living things, that which animates all things. Um, if I wanted to get a little bit deeper, though, instead of dealing with the regular language that we use, I want to go a little bit into a different aspect. See, because everything has an equal and opposite, correct? So if that's so, God has to have both a masculine and feminine nature. Now, I'm not calling God a woman or even negating from that perspective. What I am saying is a feminine nature is that which receives, whereas a masculine nature is that which projects. So if you're building on prayer, which is a focused thought, right? And so you're sending out your intentions, your wishes, your wants, or whatnot. You're sending them out. There has to be a point in which you can receive, right? So let's say from a masculine perspective, you're sending out thought waves into the universe, into the collective. The collective is acting as a divine womb, it's receiving. So therefore, that will give God a feminine nature. Yet that prayer has to be answered. Therefore, once it's received, it would have to be projected back. So that will give God that masculine nature. And in fact, that will give you that feminine nature in order to receive. So how does a person receive? That would be through meditation. So we send out thoughts consciously, but then when we go into that trance, into that meditative thought, that's when you're able to receive that thought. That's whenever you receive that information, that communication, which allows you to be able to act out on that prayer that you sent out. So, in order for us to be in a state of receptivity, um, we would have to find that stillness because you can't deal with God in the past. Obviously, you can't deal with anything in the past. You can't change your history. You can't change your past. And obviously, though we can dictate the future, we can't live in the future. The only where we can live is the here and now. So when we're in the here and now, we focus on our breath. Controlled breathing allows you to stay in the present. Once you're in the present, you have a stillness, that peace. And once you find that peace, then you can communicate with your God conscious. So, what blocks a lot of us from being able to do that is the inability to want to be vulnerable or open enough to actually even be able to receive that information, receive confirmation, affirmation from the God aspect of your mind, because we're caught up in the triangle of self obsession. The triangle of self obsession would be um, in the past, we hold our resentments. In the present, We hold our insecurities and anger, and then finally in the future we hold fear. Right. So the opposite of dealing with that triangle of self-obsession would be um, resolving issues in the past. That would be forgiveness. There's a lot of science that has to go with. There's a lot of therapy. There's a lot of work. There's layers because we've been traumatized. We go through so many issues every day. We don't let go. It's defense mechanisms, and it's kind of hard to want to let go of things because it's so much easier to fuel negative thoughts and resentments with negative memories. Such and such did this to me. Such and such hit me, cheated on me, whatever they did. And as long as you stay in that moment, you're constantly feeding it, constantly feeding it, constantly feeding it. And so therefore those resentments get stronger and stronger and stronger. So whenever you attempt to get in the present, you kind of find yourself living in that past moment. Whereas once you finally get a sense of acceptance, you can get a sense of forgiveness. Um, and that's hard. I think a lot of times in a lot of religions, if I can get this over here. Yeah, don't even worry about it. The light's not gonna shine. It's too far back. I can't see it the way I want to, so forget it. But in a lot of religions, they make it more divine whenever an individual is able to forgive. Um, that's an aspect of men that we struggle with because we usually forgive with conditions. We say, I'll forgive, but I won't forget things that. Um, once you can learn to accept, once you can gain a level of acceptance of something that happened and move beyond it because you understand it is hindering your growth and development, we can actually call that a level of forgiveness. And once you forgive and stop living in that past, that which you cannot control, then you can stop it from controlling you. Once you leave the past, you can move into the present, which that resentment had harbored anger, right? And we have to get out of that anger. You have to be able to find that peace. So I go from forgiveness to acceptance. So I'm no longer dealing with anger. I'm dealing with being able to live in that exact moment. So resentment is replaced with forgiveness. My anger is replaced with acceptance, and then that acceptance is replaced with love. Right? Love is the highest form of understanding. You know, and if I understand a situation, I understand an individual, I know that they have the shortcomings. Um, I can move beyond it. I'm not going to hold it against them. They have shortcomings. I have a understanding that that's how they've been conditioned. That's how they may have been domesticated. That may have been how their lack of information. And then finally, there's the future in which, when I'm stuck in that triangle of obsession, I'm dealing with fear. I want to replace that fear with faith. Um, Faith that things can be better. Things that hope, that belief, that mindset that such and such will or can happen. So once I can move from resentment and anger and fear to forgiveness, love, and ultimately faith, I can step outside of myself and stop being so obsessed and absorbed within self and understand the potential of the next individual um, and allow myself to grow. It's honestly like the less obsessed I am with me, the more potential there is for me to be me. And in doing so, I can stay in that present moment. See, even faith in the future or forgiveness in the past doesn't allow me to communicate with my higher self. What allows me to communicate with my higher self is love. The ability to love or understand myself, and the ability to love and understand all that's outside of myself. Because that elevated understanding tells me all things are connected anyway. So, in order for me to love myself, I have to love all things, right? In other words, in order for me to understand myself, I have to understand that I'm connected to all things. So you have that which is dependent, that which is independent, ultimately that which is interdependent. So that's what we attempt to work with, that interdependence, that interconnection, that love. All right. So once I stay in the present, once I stay in the present and I practice my breathing, keeping me in the present versus paying attention to the breaths. 7 in, hold for seven, 7 hold, 7 in, and I'm so conscious of, and after a while, all other things start to fade away. And I say breathing because those who know that when you get angry, you get short, choppy breath, or you get excited, your breath changes, or you get scared, your breath changes. Um, your breath changes how you emote, how you show emotions. But once you get into a proper breathing, you can go into basically a trance, a state in which your conscious is impressionable. So you can have a guided trance, or you can go into a blank state in which you find that peace and you're able to be um, receptive to that information that you normally are blocking from weapons of mass distraction that we deal with every day, right? So, in order for us to communicate or to become intimate with our higher power, we have to be able to stay in the present. In order for us to stay in the present, we can't be obsessed with self. We understand what self obsession is. When we step away from self obsession, we're able to stay in that moment, focus on the love of that which exists, because they say God is what? Love, right? So we're staying in the aspect of the present in which we can embrace God or love, and then we can actually hear that incoming information, which some people will call revelation or prayer or inspiration or whatever, verbiage we choose to use. Um, so therefore, we can go back to today's mathematics, which is wisdom, wise words, ways, actions, and deeds, and power, which is the truth, which is the light that shines through all falsehood. And we also say power can also be combined with what we call refinement. I say that we don't just refine or purify ourselves, but we refined, um, go back to that which was lost and reconnect to that which was lost. To do over, refine. So we refined who we were. And then when we put those pieces together, obviously we're coming back to the source of what some people call God or Allah, or leg, arm, head, or divine consciousness, or Olodumare, or whatever terminology you choose to feel comfortable with. At the end of the day, we're coming back to that source. And when we're dealing with that source, not to sound all metaphysical or out there, but there is a divine intelligence which allows your body to operate. Imagine, your body digests food. Your body fixes scabs, turns wounds into scabs and heals. Your body knows how to take blood and stop it from coagulating in your veins, and keeps oxygen pumping through the blood and your brain and back throughout your body. All of this is done simultaneously without you even thinking about it. Imagine being able to tap into that divine intelligence and saying, I need that intelligence to run my family, to run my relationship, to run my business. We'd be, our families would be A1, our businesses would be great, our relationships would be beyond impeccable. Um, and you can tap into that divine intelligence that operates and permeates throughout your body, but you have to be able to stop, look, and listen, right? We have to look, listen, observe, and respect. We have to do the knowledge. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is we have to make ourselves open and become vulnerable, right? We have to make ourselves become vulnerable. So therefore, we have to be receptive. And that's why I say vulnerable, because there's um, warm currents and cold currents. So they say positive energy and negative energy. So when you're open to those suggestions that are coming from your higher self, you want to make sure you're not distracted with those suggestions. They come from what we would call our lower self as well, right? That's today's build. We got something out of it. I'm strive to do a little bit more. I haven't been on here in a while. Say peace.